Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Technomancer. So, I had an idea. So when this recent patch came through, a lot of people were talking about how they were getting killed and what to do after emergency stance. I'm getting one banged, and of course, a lot of that is at the result of yet another bug. But people are noticing that survivability is a little bit harder now, so I took it on myself and felt obligated to make a more survival-based techno, but I still wanted to retain some good DPS. And I've gone a step further and converted it into a healing build as well. So you have tankiness, a bit of survivability, coupled with really solid DPS, and the ability to heal and buff teammates. Now, if that sounds like your kind of thing, stay tuned through the whole video. For those that are new here, or back for a second time, you might as well go ahead and hit that sub button. I'll know if you don't, okay? And if you can't, leave a like, as it really helps the video get out there further and expands its reach. So if you could do that, thank you. I appreciate the consideration. But for now, I want to explain how I got to this idea. So with the change to emergency stance and survivability being a little difficult for some people, I decided to make a build, but I didn't want it to just be a tanky build because this game's all about pacing and getting runs done fast, right? You want to get golds, and this build can effectively solo do all of the golds. So what I did is I took my standard DPS build, so my standard traditional DPS top tree blighted build, and I kept all the armor. I kept all the rolls but one, and I modified it by putting on cryo down. It's a tier 3 cryo turret mod, and I built that onto it so it reduces half the cooldown on that turret. And the other switch from a standard DPS blighted build is that I have converted primarily to a tech shaman build, which is middle tree. And we do deviate to the top a little bit for more damage because, again, we wanted to retain that. So if you're following to this point, and I'll show you the armor and whatnot on screen so you can see the exact rolls that I'm using, I am running what is a standard DPS build for my thing. I've got Sharp Eye, Bloodlust, Crit Stack, you know, Kingslayer, all of those things that are normally there are now on this build. And the only thing that I've changed mod-wise is that Cryo Down mod, so that I can get the perks of it. So let's break the tree down a little bit and explain why I went this route. So as you can see, we're middle tree, and we take a straight path right to the end, and we deviate about halfway through to get some of the Assault Master for the assault weapon damage and some other benefits. And I'm going to break this down to explain exactly why I did this. Now, if you look at this, each one of these little things right here, this anomalous body will give us 10% health. So there's 40% right off the bat. We get an additional 60% armor, so again, a lot of survivability. We get some resistance, some leech in there. Of course, weapon leech, not skill leech. And we have a lot of other things that are going to benefit survivability. So we have blur screen, which is health regeneration threshold is increased by 20% of max health. Very useful. We have Doctor of Medicine, which increases the healing by 20% for you and your allies. Going over here to Fracture. Now, this is far more situational. This works for my variant build. So if I'm running solo, I use Cold Snap. And I use Fracture to be built into that. So if I'm dealing with a boss or something that I think I'm going to possibly be pummeled by, I will pop a Cold Snap and time it together and do as much damage as I can on top of what I normally do. And of course, don't forget that Technos can melee. So if an alpha jumps on me, melee him, I'm now doing 30% more damage to him, which is, again, a major asset for the build. And then we have Overclocked. Now, I love this mod. Again, this is all about survivability, but retaining DPS. Activating gadget skills increase your anomaly power and weapon damage by 40% for 10 seconds. 10 seconds of uptime. Now, as you can see, Cold Snap, Fixing Wave, and Cryo Turret are on there. Now, Cold Snap has a ridiculously high cooldown. I'm not going to really generate this often. I do use it when I'm solo, but not when I'm with squads. I use Fixing Wave. And even then, this will pop from time to time. This is why I use that Tier 3 Cryo mod, so that I can get that down to under a 10-second cooldown. I don't need to build a bunch of cooldown. I can keep my long range, close range, and firepower on my weapons and my armor, and I can still get that cryo turret underneath there. So as long as I pop it after every cooldown, I am keeping that anomaly and weapon damage for 40%. It's basically what most people are used to from empowering antenna, but instead of the blighted turret, we're using the cryo turret instead. On top of this, it has a double feature. For 10 seconds upon losing all health, you will receive a second chance to return to the battlefield with 50% of your max health. This can pop once every 3 minutes. This is effectively a phoenix from the Pyromancer. So, if you're following, we got a bunch of survivability, a bunch of armor, a bunch of health, a bunch of lifesteal, a bunch of regeneration options, and we even get a second life every 3 minutes. And that is big for people that are struggling to find that. But at the same time, we're still hitting really big numbers, and with the change to some of the mods out there, you could probably risk going a little bit more aggressive for more DPS with like Dark Sacrifice if you like. Again, that affects your overall health, so it's still going to be chipping away at this, but you still have the resistances and armor and of course the regeneration as well, so you can pick and choose from what I standard use, which is Killing Spree. Then you can see we go up to the top tree right here. We're looking for Exposing Toxin because we're still using Blighted Rounds. We have Vulnerability and of course the 40% more to it. We get a bit of weapon damage here. We get some toxic damage to them as well, which is going to be 10%. Another 8% impact multiplier, and then 20% more with weapon damage. And that is the skill tree. I thought this the most healthiest way to build a hybrid DPS and survival build for the Techno, and that is where the Tank Mill is born. For the skills, I have Blighted Rounds. I have Cold Snap, but when I'm playing with friends, I put on Fixing Wave, and I have the Cryo Turret. Again, Cryo Turret gets down to around 10-second cooldown, depending on what you're running and how you have your gear rolled. And as long as you can keep popping that out after every cooldown, you're going to get that 40% anomaly power and 40% weapon damage. And that is absolutely massive for you to get that burst and that killing potential that you are looking for. So it's very similar to how the old Blighted build works. Instead of a Blighted turret throwing every once in a while, you throw the Cryo turret as frequently as you possibly can. Cold Snap will also activate that if you need to, so you get that burst and make sure that it is actually up when you do it. And that is great. Now, the reason I like Fixing Wave when I'm playing with friends is because obviously survivability is huge. And this is really, really important. So 33% of max health to all players. And this is cool and all, but if you remember the skill tree, we get an additional 20% right here. So I'm instantly reviving them to crazy limits of their health. So if I notice one of my friends is getting jumped on, or they're getting chased by something, or they drop their Blighted Rounds, I pop that heal and I keep them in the fight. Not only do I get that, but I also proc Overclocked as well. Because I activated that gadget, I get more boost to my anomaly and weapon damage. So I think this is just a very good build that synergizes extremely well with each other. And I think you guys are going to love it. I found myself running this, and I felt very confident. I felt that I rarely got hurt, but, you know, even in situations where I would be pinned in a wall from a melee guy or explosive barrels, just like that, you can notice that I'm surviving more. I don't feel like I need to roll. I'm tanking damage. Obviously, I'm hitting a little weaker, but when I proc and I throw my turret, I'm hitting just shy of 1 mil. And again, with a few tweaks to my build or putting on Dark Sacrifice, I can still hit over 1 million, but still retain a lot of survivability. I get that extra secondary life if I do happen to die. And again, that is great for solo play. I know a lot of guys are struggling to do CT15s. The amount of people that I've seen, I used to do CT15s. I can't even do CT12s now. Maybe this is the way that people should start building. Instead of just following the standard DPS role and hoping that works and praying to not get hit by a sniper or jumped on by a boss or lasered or something, you can survive significantly better with this build and still put out a widely acceptable, you know, moderate amount of damage, right? I feel strong in a group still, and I feel strong solo still. I feel like I stay alive, and I feel like I'm unkillable with this build. I don't feel like I ever have to worry about losing rounds or anything like that, and I can put on Emergency Stance. I can sacrifice that for something else if I wanted to go a step further. You could still put on more survivability if you want, or you could put some options on there for better cooldown. There's a lot of flexibility, and this is a template for you guys to work with. I think this could get really wicked with some nice combinations with maybe some cooldown and a Cryo Turret, Blighted, and Cold Snap build, and you use the Borealis 3-piece. Like, that could get really wicked. You could probably push even further DPS options. You'll lose a little up front, but that burst from that 3-piece could be massive. So I'm really excited with this build. I haven't seen a tanky DPS healer build yet, and I'm glad I put this together, and hopefully it's helped you in some way. So if you're a new player, this might be a great way for you to build. Just build your tree differently, put on the mods that you're used to, survive a little better, and get your clears done. So thanks again for the love and support, everybody. I appreciate all the love we've seen on these videos lately. It means a lot to me. If you guys can, share it out there, let me know. And if there's anything else that you would do different with this build, or anything that I possibly missed that you think could improve it, let us know in the comment section below, and maybe we'll have an updated guide in the future, or again, maybe one of those variants with Borealis. So thanks again, y'all. Appreciate you clicking on this video. I'll see you with another one soon.